City Center Radio. It is episode 120, and I am your host, Christian Sanger. Today is Wednesday, May 10th, 2023. What's up, saints and sinners? I hope you are having an awesome week. We've got lots to get to. First, real quick, not a whole lot has happened in my world since the last episode. I did go out and see Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. I like to talk about shows and movies and all that good stuff that I end up seeing. I'll probably start talking about music as well a little bit more when new albums come out for bands I like or what have you. Just sharing with anybody who is interested. And really enjoyed the film. If you're not in the Marvel... I was about to say if you're not in the Marvel universe, but none of us are. But meaning if you aren't someone who's into the Marvel films and all that, then hey, I get it. Maybe you've had Marvel fatigue. There's so many movies out there under that umbrella. But if you've enjoyed the films before, especially if you've enjoyed the Guardians of the Galaxy franchise, I think you'll really enjoy this movie as well. As usual, the soundtrack is great, like it is in the other two movies. Visually, it looks amazing as well. Acting is good as it usually is for this franchise. A lot of really talented actors that are in this film. So, a couple surprises as well as Marvel is want to do. But yes, I enjoyed the film, and if you've enjoyed previous Marvel films, definitely go check that one out. All right, but let's get into the news. Big national news just before I started recording, the trial of Donald Trump that was brought on by E. Jean Carroll, saying that he raped her back in 1996. Well, we have a result from that trial today. The New York federal jury found that former President Donald Trump is liable for sexually abusing and forcibly touching the writer E. Jean Carroll at a department store, as I mentioned, back in 1996. They also found that he defamed her last fall when he denied her claim, calling it, hoax, saying she was lying. It was a jury of 6 men and 3 women. In addition to finding Trump liable, they ordered him to pay Carroll $5 million in punitive damages. So details, that's the gist of it. There's probably some more information out there if you're interested in some more of the details. But basically, the jury did find that he is liable. Now, this is a civil court case versus a criminal case. So that means the former president won't have any kind of criminal, arrest. He won't be face any kind of criminal repercussions from this. Now, yes, he is going to, and of course, there's going to be appeals and all that kind of stuff. But if this sticks, he'll have to pay that $5 million if that is something he's able to do. So in that sense, that's a repercussion there. But he's not going to go to jail over this. He's not going to have to register as a sex offender. It's, if you aren't familiar with the differences between civil and criminal cases, I encourage you to look it up. But that's kind of the gist of it. There's usually a lower threshold for finding someone quote unquote guilty in a civil trial. It's not, they don't usually use that terminology. They usually say liable. The most famous example that I remember growing up was the O.J. Simpson trial, where he was found not guilty of the double homicide, but was found liable in the civil case later on. So that's where the differences come in between those. But that did come out, regardless if it's civil or criminal. It's a historic verdict to have a former president be found liable for sexually abusing someone and also of defaming them. Like I said, sure, there'll be appeals and we'll have updates as it goes on, but as of right now, that is what the jury has found in that case, and that's what it'll be until we hear about Trump and his lawyers' plans for any kind of appeals. All right, coming back here to the Charleston area, the groom that was seriously injured in that horrific Folly Beach crash is back home and recovering, according to the family. For those who don't remember, Eric Hutchinson was one of 4 on what's called a low-speed vehicles. Originally reported that it was a golf cart, but there are some differences there. But that low-speed vehicle was struck by an alleged drunk driver on Folly Beach late last month. His bride, 34-year-old Sam Miller, obviously became Hutchinson just hours before this accident, was unfortunately killed in the accident. Eric's mother, Annette Hutchinson, said on a GoFundMe page that Eric suffered multiple injuries, including two broken legs, one of which had to be surgically repaired, broken bones in his face, which also had to be surgically repaired. He also had broken vertebrae in his back. He had brain bleeds and numerous cuts that he needed to have stitches to close up. She said that he is also physically recovering at home while also trying to deal with the emotional and, just every other consequence of going through something so devastating. He's trying to come to terms with the loss of his wife that he just married hours before this accident. And in addition to all that, he's having to help plan her funeral, along with her family. I can't even imagine what this poor person and the rest of his family and friends have had to go through. Just horrific. As for other updates involving this case, glad that he is home. I'm sure, like me, you all wish him a speedy recovery, both emotionally, mentally, physically, and somehow he can get through this horrible situation. As for the other occupants that were in the vehicle during the accident, Hutchinson's mother said that one is recovering in the burn unit at one of the local hospitals. The reason for that is they had to have surgery to address severe road rash and some open wounds. A plastic surgeon also helped address his facial stitches, and he also had some on his hands. Um, Hutchinson's mother said that that person wouldn't be able to return home to Utah, where he's from, until he can put weight on his leg and heal further. The fourth occupant only, quote unquote, suffered minor physical injuries, according to Hutchinson's mother. Related to this story, the Folly Beach boat, the famous Folly boat, which is currently sitting on the vacant space where the barrel was. I mean, the building and stuff's still there, but they're not open still. But that's where the boat is, right next to it. It has been painted in tribute to both Sam and Eric. Um, so a nice tribute from whoever did that. I figured that would probably be the case. I had a couple people mention the Folly boat in, on social media, and had someone actually DM me and ask if I knew about, what if there's any like rules or anything for painting the boat. So a nice tribute, and the GoFundMe has raised a lot of money to help cover funeral expenses and recovery for all the folks that were injured. Just a really devastating and sad story, and as updates go on with the court case of the alleged drunk driver, and any updates from the family, I'll be sure to pass those on. So this week is supposed to be the last week of the 2020 legislative session. Usually there's a little bit of a sense of hectic activity. As the legislators try to push some bills through. This is their last chance before the session ends, and anything that isn't passed is on hold in some capacity until the next session. It appeared that any abortion ban was done for this year. I think it was 2 weeks ago, maybe even longer. One last attempt by House Republicans to pass some kind of abortion bill failed again. Actually, it was last week, thanks to several Republicans who crossed over, but specifically a group of women you may remember me talking about, who came from all different areas of the political spectrum, who stood up and to make sure that that ban didn't go through. Well, despite all that effort, the city paper was reporting that the House Republicans may try it again with a 6-week abortion ban that was similar to the one that was ruled unconstitutional earlier this year. That's a completely separate ban. Than the one I was just referencing. Two sources inside the General Assembly, one Democrat, one Republican, told the city paper that House Republicans will consider a 6-week abortion ban that passed the Senate earlier this session. So the Senate has had a less restrictive version, don't get me wrong. It's also super restrictive. But not as restrictive as the House version. And that's where they were butting heads, the Republicans in the House versus the Republicans in the state Senate. They could not agree on an appropriate ban, and they've just not been able to come together. So it appears the House might try to go along with what the Senate passed just to get something passed. So up until today, I'm recording this on Tuesday, May 9th. Hard right leaders in the House have rejected like I mentioned, rejected the Senate version of the bill in favor of their own, which is basically a total abortion ban with very, very few exceptions. But those sources said that pushing for something more conservative on abortion than the status quo, even though they were pushing for that, they've caved to the Senate's position, again, just trying to get something passed. So, as of this recording, there's been no movement on this bill, but the session, is not officially over. So, although the city paper was hearing that Tuesday this could come up and it might be trying to just shove this thing through, there's been no movement that I've seen or covered, whether it's from press or anybody on social media, the politicians and things like that. But just putting it out there that this was something that could happen, that a House Judiciary Subcommittee and the full committee could pass it on Tuesday and then take it to the floor on Wednesday, which is when you were hearing this podcast. So I just wanted to bring it up in case this turned out to be true, so you're aware of it, and so that you knew that I was aware of it and shared the information with you. As I said, depending on when you're listening to this on Wednesday, or of course, if it's after Wednesday, this may be a moot point. It didn't come up, or it didn't pass, or it did, and so we'll have updates on that. Depending on what happens here, the session itself is supposed to end at 5 p.m. on Thursday. So, I mean, really, anything can happen, but there are steps to these bills, so it would have to go through like those subcommittees and things. So if there's no movement, if there was no movement, I guess I should say, on Tuesday, it was even more likely that this bill is dead for the year. Authorities have announced that they have arrested a second person in relation to a shooting incident that happened at MUSC last week. You may remember this story. I was in the garage at the time, as I have mentioned previously. So it's a little bit more personal to me. Again, now that more and more details are coming out, there's a lot of things that I wish we were made aware of. And by we, I mean the people that were in the area on that day. But it also is showing that, okay, scary situation, but it appears it was, as MUSC mentioned, isolated in that the people involved were not trying to harm anybody else. Now, the second arrest is a man by the name of Donovan Henderson, who is 23 years old. He has been charged with attempted murder. He was arrested after 9:30 p.m. on Sunday with assistance from the Somerville Police Department and the MUSC Public Safety Department. As I mentioned, he's a second arrest. Samuel White, who is 31 years old, was arrested last Thursday. He was also charged with attempted murder, but in addition, he also was charged with possession of a weapon during a violent crime and carrying a weapon on school property. So, something pretty interesting about all this, we believe, we the public, we anybody who happened to be at MUSC during this shooting, we're under the impression that there was one person that was the agitator, for lack of a better word. But now they've charged a second person with attempted murder. But oddly, that's all they were charged with, not with any possession of a weapon. So is that just a technicality? We weren't able to recover the weapon, or they don't have proof he had a weapon. But then what's the attempted murder charge? So still a lot that needs to be figured out here, because you have two people charged with attempted murder. There's no victims. Were they fighting each other? As I mentioned, I was there. I heard two separate sets of shots. First set, and I don't know for sure, but each set had about 5 shots. So, bang, 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 5 shots. About a 10-second gap, there was another round of about 5 shots. So was each round I heard from one of them? Was it just one person? And again, if it was just one person, why is the other one being charged with attempted murder? What was their role? There's just so much still in this situation that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And that's just because the details aren't out yet. I'm not saying there's anything nefarious or anything like that going on. It's just not a lot of details about what exactly occurred, just that there have been 2 arrests and both have charged with murder. One has some other weapons charges as well. So again, I'm obviously very interested to learn more about this, and hopefully, we'll get some more details as the process, goes through what it has to go through in any of these kind of different alleged crimes that occur. Folly Beach Deputy Chief Rocky Burke on Monday announced his plans to run for Charleston County Sheriff. According to a press release, Burke has served in various public safety roles over a 48-year career, including law enforcement and fire service. He said his top priority as sheriff would be to ensure the safety of all communities in Charleston County through collaboration and teamwork with other public safety agencies. He also mentioned prevention programs that he feels is a key to addressing underlying issues like mental illness and substance abuse, and said he plans to work with community leaders and mental health professionals to develop programs that better support mental health and other root causes of crime. He also mentioned that school safety is a top priority of his as well. Early stages, that's a lot of here are my priorities without any details about how exactly he's going to do that. But that, again, this is early in the stages. We'll learn more about these candidates. I believe he is now the third candidate, well, second to try to challenge Kristen Graziano, who is the incumbent. I don't know if she's officially announced that she plans to, rerun, but I would imagine she will. So, including her, I believe there are currently three candidates in that race. This Saturday, which is May 13th, Pet Helpers will host a community pet food distribution event that is its goal is to help residents who may need additional support for providing the necessary supplies to care for their pets. People go through rough times. You just never know. Even if they were able to perfectly do everything they needed to do for their pet as far as appointments and food and all that for years and years and years, we all know things can happen. Pandemic happens, loss of a job, whatever the reasoning is. People who may be struggling to make ends meet for themselves and their pets can stop by Pet Helpers between 8 a.m. and 11 a.m. to pick up some food. This event was made possible thanks to the donation of about 40,000 pounds of food and supplies from the company Chewy and also the Humane Society of the United States. There's more details on what exactly you need to do to go to that location and pick up either food, supplies, or both that are available. In the show notes, there's a link. Click on it. It goes to my site, and it has all the details straight from Pet Helpers. So if you need assistance, you can get information there. Bar Pizza, the latest restaurant from Ryan and Kellyanne Jones of Free Reign Restaurants, is set to open this Wednesday in Mount Pleasant. That would be today. The concept is going to be located in the space that was previously occupied by a restaurant called Kiki and Rye, which was also under this Free Reign Restaurant umbrella. The Joneses opened Kiki and Rye mid-pandemic, and despite having success, at least that's how it appeared, they have decided to switch concepts. The reason they say is to better accommodate what they feel the needs of the surrounding neighborhood where the restaurant is located. So they say Bar Pizza, it's one word, B-A-R, and then capital P on pizza. Will be a casual, family-friendly restaurant that includes an arcade room for kids, a pool table for parents, 6 TVs, yard games, and more. The menu is expected to feature wood-fire pizza as well as salads, pasta, sandwiches, and soft-serve ice cream. There, of course, will be a full bar as well, where they'll have on draft beer, cocktails, and wine, all on draft, as well as fancy milkshakes. Some will have alcohol in them, some are non-alcoholic. The restaurant is going to be located at 656G, as in girl, Long Point Road, in the Bell Hall Shopping Center. As I mentioned, Ryan and Kellyanne are the owners of Free Reign Restaurants. They're a husband and wife team, and they also own Community Table, which is in the Ion neighborhood, and Southbound, which is located on Cannon Street in downtown Charleston. Fam's Brewing Company, which is part of the Familiares pizza chain. I don't know if chain is the appropriate word. I think it's just locally, but you know what I mean. They have a handful of restaurants here. The Fam's Brewing Company location is on James Island, and they are going to be hosting a Harry Potter trivia tournament. So, lots of places hold trivia nights, and lots of places have Harry Potter trivia, throughout the year. But which makes this one a little different, and which is why I'm sharing it, is because it's going to be a tournament where participants will have the chance to win up to $1,000 in cash and prizes. It's going to be a monthly event with each trivia night focusing on a specific book or movie in the franchise. chance to win all sorts of great prizes. If you're available on a good chunk of those nights, you have a good chance of winning some big prizes because you can accumulate a lot of points over each month. For details and schedule, check the show notes, and it'll get you over to holycitycenter.com for more details. Farmhouse, spelled the German way, Haus, is a popular restaurant in a town of South Carolina called Indian Land. It is a restaurant, butcher shop, and beer garden. They have announced that they are expanding to Mount Pleasant within the next few months. The eatery will be located at 604 Coleman Boulevard in the Moultrie Plaza Shopping Center, in a space that formerly housed a restaurant called Bamboo. Farmhouse is known for their sausages and meats, all of which the restaurant says are made on site using what they call an old world process, heritage breed pork, and ethically raised chicken and beef. They will also have an outdoor beer garden that will feature live music Thursdays through Sundays. They'll also have local events out there and other programming. And they also will have a large selection of local craft beers on tap. So that'll do it for this episode of Holy City Center Radio. It is episode 120. Crazy, crazy. We're just motoring right along here. Thank you so much for listening. If you want to support the podcast, the website, and everything else, go to holycitycenter.com/shop to pick up merchandise, or go to patreon.com/holycitycenter to sign up for one of those tiers. If that's not an option for you, you can also just share, like, rate, review this podcast. All those things are free and easy to do, and that would be a great help to me. One announcement I didn't mention in the show, but Best of Charleston, I believe, I don't know if it's coming out today, but the results will be there. We'll talk about that more on Friday's podcast. I do know that they're having the Best of Charleston party tonight when you're listening to this, Wednesday night. So I'm sure results will start being announced online. You can check my website to see a link to the city paper's results, so you can see who won different awards and see if Holy City Center is taking home any this year. And again, we'll talk about that more on Friday. Thank you to Lindsay Marie Collins of LMC Sound System for producing this in every episode of the podcast, and Tyler Boone, whose music you hear in each and every episode. Until Friday, when we'll have all sorts of good stuff to talk about, enjoy the rest of your week. Good night and good luck.